This isn't looking good for the Democratic Party. We know that they were struggling a little bit earlier on when Trump entered the White House this time around. And we did show that there was a low approval rating. But now it continues to tank. You guys got to see these numbers here. Democratic Party favorability falls to the lowest level in 35 years. I just want you to look at the graph here because you're going to see both parties on here. But this is bad. The Democratic Party obviously is the blue line. We're looking at like, they're in the negatives. Both parties are in the negatives. Democratic Party in between -30 and -40. The Republican Party is in between -20 and -10. So as you can see, both parties right now are having a problem. But considering everything that's been happening under Trump's, I almost said under Trump's presidency, the Democratic Party should have a higher favorability rating than it does, but it is continuing to decrease. And I think that's the alarming factor, is that everything that has been happening under Trump, whether you agree with it or not, whether it's been the way that he has handled deportations, whether it's been Israel, Gaza, whether it's been, some people are against, the whole DEI thing, like that kind of stuff, whatever it has been, the Epstein files, right? The economy, all those things. If anything, the Democratic Party should be able to capitalize off of this at this point in time, but that is not happening. And I think a big part of it is because a number of people who are Democrats, they're kind of looking around and they feel like these politicians should be fighting harder than they are. Let's get into this clip here. They were talking about it on CNN. Not looking good.
Brand new CNN poll out today shows that Democrats' favorability among Americans is at its lowest point in the history of CNN's polling back to 1992. Only 28% of Americans view the Democratic Party favorably. How can you guys turn that around?
I think you have to.
We just got to pause here before they continue this discussion so you can see the numbers. That's not good. That is Jesus Christ. 54% unfavorable, 16% no opinion. So a big part of this, again, Hakeem Jeffries during the press conference when he said, "What do you want us to do? We're not empowered. There's nothing we can do." That didn't help, right? And there are things that they can do, but they choose not to do it. And the reason being is because they have some of the same donors as the Republican Party. So the reason why the Democratic Party isn't fighting the way that I would say the working class wants them to fight is because they're not for you either. They're not for the working class either. They are beholden to their donors, not their constituents. And fighting for the working class would mean that at this point in time, the party as a whole should get on board with universal health care, but they won't. At this point in time, the party as a whole should get on board with these policies that would greatly help and benefit the working class. We're looking at some of these same policies that their allies already have in their countries, like Denmark, right? Like Norway, like Finland, which I believe is the happiest country in the world. I think it goes back and forth between Finland and Iceland or something like that. They have a better quality of life. So until the Democratic Party adopts an agenda and a policy platform that is going to greatly benefit the working class, they are going to continue to see this decline. Also, on an international level, the genocide in Gaza does not help the Democratic Party. It really doesn't. And a number of people told me this would not be an issue, but when we looked at the numbers after the election, it was an issue for some of the voters, which is why some of those people who voted for Biden in 2020 did not turn out to vote for Kamala in 2024. Let's continue.
There'll never be a real party leader until we have a nominee for president, but we are moving into a midterms. And CNN has been covering who is motivated to show up in a midterm in the latest polling. And there's a lot of motivation there. I can go back to remember working in the 1996 congressional elections when we were trying to make up for just losing like 60 seats. After a president's elected, normally we do well. And I think that's what we're looking towards the future.
And Brian, what do you think? I mean, it is true. 72% of Democrats and Democratic aligned voters say they are motivated to go in the midterms. How does your party tap in to Republican enthusiasm that right now seems wanting in a lot of ways.
You know, listen, I think we go back to what's always worked for us. Promises made, promises kept. As of right now, inflation is lower today than when President Trump took office. Gas prices are lower today than when President Trump took office. You know, the price of eggs are lower. So he's going to make the economic message. We just need to make sure that it extends for another year and a half so that the voters continue to feel it. But I think that's the only way is, you know, we made a promise to the American people. We've delivered on these promises, and that's what should be character. We'll see if it carries.
I'm sure you have something to say.
But they haven't delivered on those promises. And I'm going to show you that in a second as well, because the rating for the Republican Party right now is also continuing to decline. The rating for Donald Trump is continuing to decline. So, you know, he's on this show. He's going to back and support his party because that's his job. But the data I'm going to show you does not match what he just said.
Say about the promises made, promises kept.
Look, if you talk to people right now about the big, beautiful bill that was passed and folks getting lost off of Medicare and SNAP, that by itself will be enough for me to run every midterm election I need to win.
What about your concerns, if any, about MAGA being so upset about the failure to release the Epstein files and the fact that Elon Musk comes out, says Donald Trump is in the Epstein files, which I have personally no evidence of, but he did say that. And then a month later, Pam Bondi and the Justice Department put out this document saying nothing to see here, folks. And a lot of people in MAGA world, as I don't need to tell you, Tucker Carlson all the way down, are very upset about it.
I mean, listen, we're 2 weeks into this. It doesn't seem like it's going to be stopped. I think the president has to figure out what type of valve that he can release so that some movement takes place, because the status quo is just not working within the base. I even going further, you know, my mother, you know, she only speaks Spanish, watches Spanish language, liberal to the extreme. She's asking me about the Epstein files and say, why isn't Donald Trump released?
How do you say Epstein files in Spanish?
I don't even know.
Epstein files?
Yeah, Epstein files.
What I was going to say is midterms are only about one thing. They've always been about one thing. It's motivation, because a big group of people don't show up to vote in an off-year election.
Right.
Motivation right now to me is more important than popularity. I think you will find your local candidate who they'll like, who's running for Congress, or a candidate, and that's the biggest difference. Is we have to keep our people motivated. And every time Epstein or even giving war or giving things to Ukraine will make them mad. Hell, they're even mad because they think that Superman is woke. There's something making their base mad every day.
Do you agree with that?
Listen, I think our base is happy with the progress they're making, that President Trump is making. But yeah, they are frustrated with the fact that the shine, at least for 4 years, the shine of the American, you know, spirit was harmed by Joe Biden, whether it's their domestic policies, whether it's border policies or anything. And so they're eager to have that restored. They see President Trump doing. They just wish more was happening.
So the numbers don't show that. He's bringing up the border issues there. The data doesn't show that right now. As I've told you over and over again, there have been no mass deportations under Donald Trump. There have been controversial deportations, but the numbers do not show that there have been mass deportations. Like, I could have given people that big heads up when Donald Trump said he was going to make an exception for the agricultural workers, that he wasn't going to deport them, right? Because those are very, very low paid jobs. And he's like, well, we got to keep them here because otherwise the food won't flow or whatever. So again, like I said, people say what they think their base wants to hear when they're trying to get elected. But once they're in office, it's a totally different story. Now, again, it's not just the Democratic Party. Like I said, the Democrats are really struggling. Don't get it twisted. But Donald Trump's approval rating, and this is new, Donald Trump's approval rating just dropped to 37%. Let's go ahead and get into this.
Joining us now, Princeton University professor of history and public affairs, Julian Zelizer, Bulwark managing editor and MSNBC contributor, Sam Stein, and host of Fast Politics podcast, and MSNBC political analyst, who for some reason is not here in studio with me, Molly Jong Fast. I thought you were going to be here. What a bummer. Okay.
Sorry.
Sam, let me talk to you about these poll numbers. They're very, very not good.
Sure. No, they're not good. We'll see if they sustain or if they stay at this level. But this is the result of what I would imagine are a series of just broken promises and people catching up to that reality. The main broken promise was that he would get prices under control. That has not proven true. It's certainly not proven true in the mindset of voters. The second was that he was going to end foreign conflicts on day one. I mean, this was explicit. We have not seen an end to the war in Ukraine. We've certainly not seen an end to the suffering in Gaza. And if anything, his time has been marked by the engagement in Iran, which is an extension of foreign conflicts. And then I guess you can add on to that immigration, which, yes, he did promise a mass deportation force. But I think a lot of voters, at least anecdotally, have said this is not exactly what they imagined when he talked about deportations. And when it's hit home for them, when they see local businesses unable to find staff, when they see people in their communities detained, having lived there for decades, they've recoiled at that. And so that's why you see his numbers not just low in the abstract, but low on all of these issues, including the ones that are supposed to be strengths for him, like immigration.
Let's pause here for a second. Now, this is the exact opposite compared to what the other gentleman said on CNN, delivering on promises. And no, he has not delivered on promises, and not the ones that really affect your wallet, that really affect, you know, those kitchen table issues that we've talked about before multiple times on the show. So one, let's start with the foreign policy, right? There is famine in Gaza right now. Famine. They have a starvation crisis, which Donald Trump could stop. When Israel wasn't allowing aid to get in under Biden, I said the same thing. I told you, you know, Biden can stop this, right? That Biden and Kamala, if they wanted to, they could stop it. But as long as they continue to give Israel the weapons, I mean, you know what I mean? Like, they could easily fix that. And now we see that situation once again. I've already seen, and I can't show it on the show, very, very disturbing. I have seen a number of photos and videos of children where they're basically down to their bones. That's how starved they are right now. I saw a child wearing a diaper and they were so skinny where you could see their bones that like the diaper doesn't even want to stay on their body. People are not blind to these images. People are seeing that. So there's that. The promises that Donald Trump made when he said he would end these conflicts on day one, number one, day one was rather adventurous, but the reality is that has not happened. We have seen an escalation of conflicts, military conflicts from the United States. Yes, this includes the US, not just attacking Iran, but also the US is giving Israel the weapons. Israel has gone on to continue to attack Syria, Lebanon as well. More hostilities in the West Bank. Now, these things aren't new, but they're continuing. So when you said that when Donald Trump went to Dearborn, Michigan, and he met with a certain segment of the Muslim community and told them that I'm going to fix it, I'm going to fix it, he has continued to allow these things to go on. Things are escalating. They're not going in the opposite direction. So that's the foreign policy. When it comes to the economic issue, I know a number of people keep asking about eggs. As someone who does like to cook, I'll be the first to let you know, like eggs are used in a lot of different meals, even meals that you may not think of. Like eggs are often used in baking, right? Like it's not just something that people have for breakfast. For those who are vegetarians, they tend to heavily rely on eggs as a source of protein. Right? Those of us that lift weights like me, like eggs is one of those quick protein fix that you can get. So when people say, well, the eggs are still expensive or whatever, yeah, that does impact quite a bit of people. But eggs are used for a number of things. So there's that. A number of people still complaining about the gas prices, right? Like people are still being laid off. Microsoft has laid off thousands of workers. I talked about there were hundreds that were laid off from Boston University recently. Like people are still losing their jobs as well. Long story short, the economy is still problematic. And I told you guys before that I still don't really believe the economy ever fully recovered from that 2008 housing crisis. I think things did get better, but I still don't feel like we were ever at that point that we were like in 2005 or 2003, you know, compared to how things are today. A number of people still being evicted. Homelessness crisis continues to escalate in the United States. A number of younger people still can't afford to buy homes. The home prices are continuing to increase. So economically, things are not going well. Then there was the issue with the big, beautiful bill and people at risk of losing Medicaid. So We are not seeing policies move forward for those that are part of the working class, which is the majority of the country. The majority are not millionaires. They're not billionaires. The majority, like I told you before, the average middle-aged woman in the United States is working a retail job or working at a restaurant. So these are the things that we have to acknowledge. So you see the Democratic Party is tanking significantly in this new poll. And then you also see Donald Trump is also tanking. And this is why I say it is the perfect time for people to move towards third parties. If not third parties, independents, but real independents, not Andrew Cuomo independent, not someone who's status quo, someone who is for the working people. Let's go on a little bit more here.
That's true. Julian, how much is it going to matter that Donald Trump is running on a very unpopular, at least as of now, legislative bill, the big, beautiful bill, which is cutting Medicaid. It's extending a tax break mostly to the very wealthy. It's adding some little tax incentives on tips and whatnot, but it is going to take a huge chunk out of Medicaid and potentially kick people off their health care. How does he run on that?
Well, I mean, Republicans are hoping the fact those are delayed until after the election will help, but the numbers suggest they won't. I think the broken promises are one part of this, but the promises delivered don't look so good. And even if those cuts are not happening yet, I think many voters in midterms, they tend to be more active voters, are reading about what's coming. This affects red states as much as blue states.
Red states as much as blue states. These are the issues I wanted you guys to see. So Trump's job approval by the issues: immigration, 38%, the economy, 37%, Israel and Gaza, 36%, foreign trade, 36%, and the federal budget, 29%. So as you guys can see, the Epstein files is not one of these issues. Now, we don't know if that was even mentioned on the poll, so I want to be clear about that. But these are the issues that people are using to grade Donald Trump's job performance on. So people have to understand that. That's what they're looking at there, ladies and gentlemen, right? Yeah. And we have another one. There's another one I wanted to show you here as well. People don't feel any better off. Listen to this one.
President Trump's job approval takes a nosedive in the latest Gallup poll. His overall approval sitting at just 37%, with nearly 60% disapproving of how Trump is handling his job as president. It's the lowest rating so far of his second term, and just slightly higher than his all-time low of 34% from the end of his first term, following the January 6th attack on the steep decline is being driven mostly by independents, with only 29% of them approving of Trump's job performance. That matches the lowest rating from that group during either of his terms in office.
That is bad. Listen, it was independents that helped Joe Biden win in 2020, and it was independents that helped Donald Trump win in 2024. He has never had an approval rating this low from independents under both terms. 64% disapprove, Republicans 7% disapprove, and then Democrats, of course, 97% disapprove. So as you can see, we got the partisan thing here. There's 2% of Democrats who do approve of what Donald Trump is doing. I wonder who those 2% are. But as you can see, the parties align with the parties for the most part. But the independents, this is that group that can help you win or help you lose when it comes to these presidential elections. So everybody needs to pay attention to how independents are feeling in this country.
Meanwhile, approval from Republicans remains steady at nearly 90%. Joining us now, Republican strategist and MSNBC political analyst Susan Del Percio, also with us, political strategist Maya Rupert. Susan, I'll start with you. There is this argument that Trump doesn't care about his polling numbers because he's been reelected and he's not going to be on a ballot later. But this might also be a messaging opportunity if Trump's calculus for policy decisions isn't based on aggregated polling data, but rather just what he wants to see happen. Can that be used against him at some point going forward, whether in the 2026 midterms or beyond?
Well, I think, Allie, it has to do more. Donald Trump's ego has to have good poll numbers. That's what usually drives him, and then drives him to either lash out or complain about the polls. But right now, he's in a whole different place with the Epstein matter at hand. I think with Donald Trump, when he's not selling, he's losing. And we haven't seen him like we typically do. He hasn't done a rally in a while. He hasn't been doing the things he typically likes to do, whether he's running for office or president. So presidents right now, and I think about Joe Biden an awful lot after he passed the Build Back Better bill. Democrats then said there's so much to talk about. Republicans now say there's so much to talk about, but it seems like the American public really wants to see their president more out there campaigning and talking to them versus actually doing the job they elected them to do.
Yeah, you have to actually talk about it, right, Maya? I think that's a pitfall that even Democrats would admit they fell into after what Susan points out was a bill that was packed with various policy priorities. And ultimately, it wasn't exactly connected to Biden and Democrats. So is there a lesson for Republicans here, frankly?
So I'm sorry. And yeah, this is where I have to push back here, because here's the thing, ladies and gentlemen. Rally around what? Because you can hold rallies and say, yay, I did blah, blah, blah. But people know what their bank account says. So what are you rallying around? What are you celebrating at this point in time? You just saw the issues that people are voting on. So what are you going to rally around? This is an attempt here by corporate media to try to convince you that it's the messaging that's the problem. Here we go again. Now, you heard this under Biden's administration. You're hearing it now under Donald Trump's administration, that it's the message that's the problem. That's why people feel the way that they do, as if the American people can't tell if prices are unaffordable for them. If the American people can't tell, like, hey, they keep saying there's all these jobs out here, but all the jobs that I see listed don't offer any full-time benefits. That's a big problem right here in Massachusetts. Like, as if the American people are just dumb or stupid. So you got a message. That's why people don't know, because you're not sending the message. Look, at the end of the day, the reality is both of these presidencies, Donald Trump and Joe Biden, at the end of the day, they end up backing the corporate class, the corporate elite, Wall Street, and the military industrial complex. That's why you see a genocide under Trump and you saw a genocide under the Biden-Harris administration. That's why. They are both tied to the brink with the corporate class. They're tied to help those people, the billionaires, the wealthy. It all goes back to the money. This is why I continue to say, so all this stuff, this nonsense that you're hearing here from corporate media, they're trying their best to try to steer this in a different direction to convince you that, well, they did these things for you. No, they really aren't doing anything for working class people. And people are waking up to that. And that's what I mean when I say people are waking up. I am hearing similar complaints about the economy that I heard under Biden and Harris right now. I'm hearing it under both administrations. And there were some people that voted for Donald Trump because they felt like financially things were better for them under Donald Trump in 2016 than it was under Biden and Harris under their 2020 presidential, journey. So now those people see, well, wait a minute, things still aren't good. Things still aren't working out for us. And this goes back to a full understanding of, again, following the money and understanding that both of these parties are captured by corporate interests. And that is why you don't see them pass many pieces of legislation that doesn't have some type of corporate interest attached to it. Even that Build Back Better bill in reference to the climate reform, don't forget that also had benefits for the corporate class. That's why Joe Manchin voted for it, because there were things in there in that bill that benefited the fossil fuel industry. So you have to put the two and two together. And that's why you don't see them really pass anything for you. Someone mentioned it earlier about cutting the military budget, the defense budget, which is also something Donald Trump said, yeah, we should slash that Pentagon budget. But you don't see that happening. Like I said, he knows that populist issues win. So he campaigns on those issues, but when he's in office, he doesn't fulfill it. And that's important for people to see. Both parties are spiraling. Both parties are captured by the corporate elite. And this is why I say people have to move towards something else. Whether you feel that's Green Party, PSL, whatever, or independent candidates that are truly independent and are not corporate captured, whatever you think is going to work politically, people are going to have to move outside of that. These people are not going to change. These parties are not going to change. And even the people who are different, who went into those parties, you're seeing how they have been able to get captured as well. So it's not good. It's not good for either party. And I just see this as a strong opportunity for something different. Hey guys, this was a Sabby clip. If you like what you saw, hit that like button and subscribe.